I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to recent developments and everything that I've been seeing, just in general with the world, I feel like I'm getting this jaded type of mindset. Like, I'm realizing more that people just don't critically think about things. Like, they don't put a lot of thought into what they're saying and what they're doing. Like in a conversation, when you're talking to somebody, if they say they don't like something and you ask them, well, why don't you like it? And they just say, oh, because I just don't like it. That's not using critical thinking. It's just in general, like, you're just putting it out there. I don't usually have too much of a problem with that. But when it comes to gaming, I think that there's a little bit of a difference in regards to this and giving advice to players when you don't know what you're talking about. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, like I said, I've been on a Joker arc because I've been getting questions for the last like 3 to 4 months about Wuthering Waves. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm the best player of Wuthering Waves out there. I really am not. But I will say that I'm good for the casual base. Again, I'm not reaching levels of Saint Tontas or, God forbid, Rexlent, right? I hate saying that name, but it's the truth. Like, they're both really good at the game, and there are plenty of other players that are a lot better than me. I'm probably bottom tier in regards to how good of a player I am. That being said, I at least understand the game and understand what you should go for in regards to building your characters. If you haven't put 2 and 2 together, I'm talking about giving advice, bad advice for WUWA, and then also what the characters do. Because I've had to deal with people saying certain things that don't play WUWA on a consistent basis, or at least even in general, that don't understand how the game works. Hell, I had somebody recently tell me that another person recommended that they don't even build up any of the 4-star characters because, well, for lack of a better term, they suck apparently. But to me, that is a challenge because at the end of the day, if you don't play the game a lot, you're just spreading lies because there are plenty of good 4-stars in Wuthering Waves. And I know that a lot of people will know the ones I'm talking about, but we're going to talk about them anyway. Now, I know I use Pride Win all the time, but this is a good reference sheet. As you can see, we do have 5 stars up here, like the Carlottas, like the Cardathias, the Zanis, the Phoebes, the freaking JGs, the Shorekeepers and stuff, right? But you could see that there are 4-star characters out there. There's obviously the Sanhuas, there's the Mortifes, the Donjins, the Baijis, right? We're not going to go into these 2 tiers because, yes, I will say that most of the 4 stars are not that great. But for those 4 stars I just listed, I think a lot of people, when they come into WUWA, don't understand that they are good in their own right, and there's a reason why they're used in a lot of endgame stuff. Take, for example, Sanhua here. Sanhua, on her skill, basically gives you an Ice Prism, on the Liberation gives you an Ice Glacier, and upon intro skill gives you a Thorn. So when you switch into her and you get everything going, activate her Forte circuit, and boom, you're doing all this stacked damage of Thorns, Prisms, and Glaciers within her range, and you're going to do a lot of damage in that regard. Not only that, but a great thing about her is her outro skill, so when you switch into your main DPS, that character is going to gain 38% basic attack damage for 14 seconds or until the character is switched off. And that's a big boost in basic attack damage, right? Especially if your character is a basic attacker. Now, who on earth can be a basic attacker and get this boost of damage as a 4-star? Well, it's Donjin. The best way I could put Donjin in essence is kind of a similar situation with Hu Tao, but a lot more complex. I will say this, I am not the best Donjin player. I have a hard time playing Donjin, but Donjin's high skill, need, puts her in a very, very weird spot. But I will say that if you get her correct and you understand how to play her, Donjin on teams is freaking insane and busted. And then if you're using Donjin with Sanhua and even Mortife, if you're able to get Mortife's freaking, main Resonance Liberation off, you're also getting, in essence, extra attacks off of basic attacks because he's going to summon these, Marcado things up above, and they're going to do extra damage on top of that, right? Which is going to be great because, again, you're trying to do as much damage as humanly possible. And Mortife doesn't just do this with 4 stars, right? It does it with 5 stars as well. It's any character that benefits from doing basic attacks. Now again, why am I pushing this point of 4 stars being great and you don't have to use 5 stars? Well, there was something that was escalated to me that somebody was saying that the 4 stars are useless, right? And we just talked about that just a little bit ago. But this is also the same person that was having a rough time beating world quest bosses. And that kind of triggered me a little bit. God, I hate using the word triggered, but it's the best thing that I could say to make sense of this. So please, please don't bully me in the comments. Please don't bully me. I'll come. But seriously, the thing that's been getting at me is that when you're doing like main story and like event quests or world quests or whatever the hell you want to call them, right? You don't need to min-max your characters. You just have to have a decent set with decent stats that are going to benefit your character. And I want this to be very clear. This isn't just to one singular person. This is one situation out of many that I have gotten in like the last couple months. And it's really funny because like this is the one that set me over the edge. Now here we're looking at my Sanhua build because again, we're talking about 4 stars being good. Now Sanhua is going to benefit from the following stats: energy regen, crit damage, crit rate, and attack percentage. Those are the main ones, right? But of course you have all your other side set stuff like, you know, basic attack damage, all that stuff. But it's not really going to be the point of her. When you're looking at the other side stuff, you're looking at resonance liberation. Because again, that's going to help out in regards to using your foretaste circuit to pop off all those prisms, glaciers, and all that stuff. It just works, right? But what we're looking at here is exactly what somebody would teach somebody if they understood, or if they understood the assignment, right? So when you're looking at this, you're looking at this set called Moonlit Clouds, which is her best set, in my personal opinion, and from what I've seen in multiple people. Energy regen gets up because you want that energy regen. That's the biggest thing, because you want to be able to activate her resonance liberation as much as possible. And then upon using the outro skill, increase the attack of the next resonator. Not only are you boosting with Sanhua the basic attack damage of 38% with the outro skill, but with this, you're also boosting the attack percentage of the next character, which is going to be your DPS character. This is why it's important to understand what you're doing, at least to a degree. I'm not saying you need to be the smartest man or woman playing this game, but you can't sit here and say that a character is bad without understanding what you're doing in the game. And not only that, but you need to understand also your main stats. What are you going to do? Glacio damage, because again, you're using an energy regen set, so you're already getting energy regen, so long as you get the bare minimum that you're going to need to pop off that resonance liberation as much as possible. And then, of course, if they build off of attack, your 1 stars are going to need attack percentage. This is an example, right? I want everybody to understand. This is just an example character of what you should do. Now, granted, look at this. This is terrible because I only have attack percentage and crit damage on this. I need to redo this one. It's just how it is. And that's the name of the game. When you're playing a gacha game like this, you need to understand that it is a grind. You're not going to have the perfect set day one unless you are one lucky son of a bitch. And if you are, please give me the Powerball freaking numbers. I need to win that thing so I don't have to work 5 days a week and stressing every night, right? I'm working 5 days a week, 14 hours a day, basically, on top of streaming, on top of whatever. So please help me. But overall, what I'm trying to get at is that, and this is the best term that I could use for this, I want people to understand, I'm not coming at this as an elitist. I'm coming from this as a casual player that sees the greatness of this game. I love Wuthering Waves. I love a bunch of different gacha games. I think that Wuthering Waves is actually a lot of fun. But what ticks me off is the term tourist. Now, what exactly do I mean by tourist? You know, people usually think of the word tourist and they look at the comment sections of one of my videos that I called out a bunch of people who were finding, you know, the the little characters very attractive. And they were like, "Oh, you're just a tourist. You don't get it. You don't get anime. You know, that's not an actual tourist, right? Maybe that's in a certain community, but you know, that's not the tourist when it comes to gacha games. Gacha game tourism to me is this. You go and you start playing a gacha game and you barely touch it. You don't want to understand the mechanics. You just want to get through the game so you can have the shiny new 5-star or S rank character depending on what game you're playing, right? And you get that, and then you're just like, why doesn't my character do the crazy damage that it does in the trials? And then what they do afterwards is they tell everybody that the game is trash and that it's all the characters are trash except for this one character, and then you just don't do good. You know, you have to be extremely lucky and blah 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 blah. You know, the same crap that we hear every time a brand new gacha game comes out and they don't understand the mechanics. And then they just end up leaving, never to return most likely, and then they wait until the next gacha game. Hell, there's going to be plenty of them in Neverness to Everness. There's going to be plenty of them in Ananta, in Silver Palace, Duet Night Abyss, all these other games. It's never going to stop, which means that I'm never going to stop crashing out as an old man, right? I swear to y'all, I'm telling you right now, this brings me back to my Modern Warfare 2 days when I used to say, oh, the game's rigged. It's the spawns and all this other stuff, and literally all it was just I'm just a bad aim in Modern Warfare 2. That's just what it is. And again, if I hurt your feelings in this game, in this video, if I trigger a little bit of people on this, know that this is probably the video you needed to hear, because in all actuality, the game design is not bad for Withering Waves. You're just having a hard time understanding that this is not Genshin Impact. There's actual good dodging. There's actually a parry mechanic. And to me, I feel like this game is a lot more rewarding than a couple other gacha games. And what do I mean exactly by that? Or the homies that have actually played a Dark Souls game and understand that you get so agitated that when you finally beat something, it is a sense of relief. You get lightheaded, you're screaming, you're like, yes, I did it, right? Unless you're one of those weird people that just don't get excited for anything, then hey, you know, do you, boo-boo. But like the general populace of people that get excited for beating something that was so hard that took you multiple tries, this is that type of game, in my opinion. Maybe not to the extent of what like Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Bloodborne is, but I would say that this actually takes a little bit of skill to fully grasp everything going on and understanding what you need to do. So to me, this is my like PSA to everybody out there that's having that's giving advice that just isn't good to other players. If you are the person that's saying that all the 4 stars are bad, or these 5 stars are the only good ones to use, or you can only do it like this, if you are that type of person that tells somebody how to play their game exactly to the T with every single character that they need to play as, just stop and understand that maybe you need to go back to the drawing board and understand the characters a little bit better. Because you don't need just 5 stars. You don't need the newest 5-star to clear content unless it's like endgame. Then maybe argument could be made for the end game content. But if you're struggling on story content or like side quest stuff, I don't think you really have any grounds to stand on. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a gotcha grandpa. Maybe I'm just a little too angry. Maybe I'm a little too triggered about this issue. It felt like a good video for me to make, and I got to actually let out my feelings about this, because it's just so frustrating hearing people who just, and this is specifically for the people that have been asking me questions. It just sucks hearing these people come up with an excuse as to why they're doing so bad in the game when you give them advice and then they don't take it and they say that they did, but they didn't actually. They did the bare minimum and they're like, oh, well, this game's just too hard. Here's to you, kid. Here's to you. But hey, I'm just a Gamer Subs partner. Make sure you use code Tasha for 10% off. I'm just saying. But enough shilling, enough ranting. I hope that this video was at least somewhat entertaining to y'all. If you have general questions about sets and all that stuff, like there is a Discord that I have where I actually have a woo section where I use some guides from other players that have shown to be really, really good at making guides and understand the game. And these guides are actually really, really good. Big shout out to Alex and Noella Gaming. I've actually followed them for a little bit, and I really like their guides and how they're structured. And I do think that people should really check them out. I'm going to put a link to their channel in the description down below. But outside of that, I just want people to get better at the game without blaming the game for just horrible play styles. Like, you can't just go in there W keying, hoping that you're going to just one-shot enemies, right? It's going to take a little bit of skill for you to do some stuff. And I really hope that this reaches the people that need to hear it. So if you want to play this game and you want to at least be better, you need to take the strides to try and be better. That's just how it is. It's how any game is, right? But I digress. I'm just rambling and I'm going around in circles. So I'm going to end it here. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think about Wuthering Waves and if I'm just a fucking crazy person. So that's going to be it. Love you guys to death. And as always, we'll catch you in the next video. Please take care and be safe.